Hello everyone and welcome to our new live webcast, Protection and Monetization of 3D Printed Objects in the Spare Parts Business of Daimler Buses. Thank you for joining this new masterclass. With each episode, we provide new highlights, technical tips and success stories that will leave you inspired and ready to get your protection, licensing and security techniques another step closer to perfection. At WIBU-SYSTEMS, we empower software publishers and intelligent device manufacturers with cutting-edge technologies, new business models, and tailor-made consulting training. Let us help you upgrade, optimize, and automate your entire license lifecycle management so you can focus on monetizing your business at a higher level. My name is Henriette Wildnitz, Key Account Manager at WIBU-SYSTEMS, and I am delighted to have here with you today Mr. Matthias Schmid, Application and Consulting Expert 3D Printing from Daimler Truck AG, and Stefan Bamberg, Senior Key Account and Partner Manager from the headquarters of WIBU-SYSTEMS. With a revolutionary move, Daimler Buses has leveraged the full power of additive manufacturing and allowed the owners and operators of Mercedes-Benz and Setra buses to produce spare parts themselves with 3D printing. All they need for these mini factories are a certified 3D printer from Farsoon Technologies and code meter licenses for the parts they want to print. WIBU-SYSTEMS technology provides the basis for a secure digital process chain, which complete control over how many parts can be and are printed on the ground. For today's webinar session, please pay attention to the housekeeping rules. For everyone who joins us today, I want to remind you that we will be reserving some time at the end of the session for Q&A. And I'd like to invite you to submit any question you have in the live chat box. This session is also being recorded and a link to the replay will be posted directly to you sometime later. Screenshots, photos, and recordings of this session are prohibited. And please don't forget, stay with us throughout the live sessions for your chance to win 4 hours of free code meter consultation from the most brilliant minds at our company. At the end of the webinar, a new tab in your browser with 3 simple quiz questions will show up. You should submit 1 or multiple choices for each multiple answer question. We will draw the winner from among those who replied correctly and notify them at the time of the replay announcement. Please also note that the winner is excluded from all subsequent prize draws of 2022. Without further ado, I pass things over to my colleague Stefan. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Henriette. My name is Stefan Bamberg. We want to introduce you today to our webinar, Protection and Monetization of 3D Printed Objects in the Spare Part Business. And if we say we, I really mean we, because I'm very happy to have a very, very experienced person at my virtual side, Mr. Matthias Schmid, Application and Consulting Expert 3D Printing of Daimler Truck AG. I will care later about the deeper technology that we use for that protection and monetization. In his part of his presentation, he will also explain what has driven Daimler Truck to implement this innovative topic right now. So also a warm welcome to you, Mr. Schmid.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Bamberg. I'm happy to be here and give you some insights. Maybe I should start with what is the Daimler Truck AG? By the end of 2021, the former Daimler AG split in 2 independent companies. On the one hand, now we have the Mercedes-Benz Group AG for luxury passenger cars. And on the other hand, we have the Daimler Truck AG for commercial vehicles with a clear and sharpened focus on transportation and transportation customer needs. As the world's largest and globally acting OEM for commercial vehicles, we know about our global responsibility regarding sustainability and it's our vision and ambition to be leading in sustainable transportation. And not only in transportation, but sustainability itself. How does that go along with 3D printing? Nowadays, we see a huge tide of changes in the society, either in the way we live, the way we work, or the way we think about many things. And for some of that changes or megatrends, industrial 3D printing, or I think additive manufacturing is the better expression. For some of that trends, additive manufacturing is basis and driver. It's way more than a French phenomenon, especially for decentralization of everything. In our case, for the decentralization of production or transport 2.0, to name just two of them. As I mentioned right now, it's not only important what we produce, but how we can produce these parts. Printers bring the raw material directly in the correct shape, which means we don't have to do milling or tooling on the machines. We don't have to deep throw parts. You can manufacture in complex forms in one simple step. And this offers lots of benefits. Industrial additive manufacturing helps companies to save a lot of time and money because of the short manufacturing time and the toolless production. It's possible to produce parts on demand. For example, the average spare part can be produced within 24 hours, which helps you, for example, to reduce your stock. Also, you can produce parts without minimum quantities, which is also a huge ecological benefit. And if you, for example, decentralize your production, you can also reduce transports and much more things. Now that you know the key advantages and possibilities of additive manufacturing, I would like to give you a short overview of our center of competence before we deep dive in the decentralized production. At Daimler Buses, in our center of competence, we have a core of 6 teams that work after Scrum method and cooperate with a cross-functional project team with over 30 different entities. For example, the legal department or tax department, IT, design department, from the end-to-end product life cycle is covered. Since we started with additive manufacturing back in 2016, we had one target: to establish and expand a new business model. For integrating 3D printing at Daimler Buses, we followed the approach: think big, start small, and move fast. We had to recognize the whole potential of industrial additive manufacturing, and then find the right application to solve an existing problem or a problem which will arise in the near future. And one thing that we identified was a new digital business model by decentralizing the production. We give our customers the choice. They can still order a spare part like they're used to, or they can order a license and print the parts by themselves. Or if they don't have their own printer, one more interesting opportunity is that our customers can get the parts printed by a printing service provider nearby their workshop, for example. So you can avoid long distance transports, can reduce carbon emissions by distributing print licenses instead of spare parts. But what does that mean for our existing supply chains? This is a classical model of the existing supply chain with the normal stakeholders and roles. Start with the OEM, which is the IP owner, and the tier 1 supplier, which is producing the parts. Ship it to the OEM. We, the OEM, are shipping the parts within our service organization, for example, subsidiaries or dealers, which resell the parts to our consumers, to our customers. So the tasks in this whole supply chain are pretty similar to each other, and the challenges for each stakeholder also. But by analyzing the supply chain, it's not important which is the stakeholder. What you need is the roles. So we identified for us 5 supply chain models. As you may see in the blue box, we have classical physical supply chains, where after when a spare part is produced and it is handed over to another stakeholder in the supply chain, there's always a physical transport. This is why we talk about physical supply chains. For the future, we identified digital supply chains, where we send, for example, CAD files, or our intellectual property to dealer or a customer that produce the parts themselves. In the best case, our producer and consumer are one and the same person. We call it the prosumer. On the first look, it seems like our prosumer model is really only interesting for the IP owner, because he can reduce running costs for his service organization by eliminating a reseller or a whole distribution level. But it's not only the IP owner is benefiting from it. Also, our consumer has a lot of advantages to this, because his parts are longer available, because if you have the relevant data and license, you can print the parts for several years, as long as you have a certified printer. You have more impact on prices that you can achieve, because you don't have to pay all the stakeholders in the supply chain. And one problem or one fact is supply chains are trust-based. On the standard supply chain, you have a one-on-one relationship between producer and IP owner on a contractual basis, and the IP owner or OEM normally has a contractual basis with his resellers. So if a producer, for example, starts a gray market or delivers parts to a gray market, it's pretty easy to identify the one who sent parts to a gray market. But if we take a closer look on the prosumer model, of course, we also make a contractual basis with the prosumer and the IP owner. But through the increased number of producers in this model, it is not really easy to handle, to audit, and so on, all these producers. So therefore, we need a technical solution to protect our IP and to avoid a gray market. And this is what we have done with WIBU and Farsoon. And there we store our 3D printing optimized data in our digital warehouse, then encrypt it, put it in our license shop, where our customers can buy the printing licenses and print their parts on a Farsoon printer, and then get the final spare part. That's when I would hand over to Stefan Bamberg.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Schmid, for explaining that high-level view of Daimler on all the business models and the opportunities we have in the additive manufacturing market. Let's have now a closer look to the technical preconditions we have. And we are very happy that Daimler Truck has selected the Cobra technology as a digital rights management system. And please allow me just 2 slides to explain to all of the people here who WIBU-SYSTEMS really is. We are located with our headquarters in Karlsruhe in Germany. You see here our wonderful buildings. We have more than 30 years experiences in our software protection and monetization market. We have more than 130 employees working worldwide for that. And we have more than 10,000 customers in the world with millions of licenses out in the field. And we are completely focused on these 3 topics: the protection of software and data, the monetization, meaning licensing for our customers, and security. Related to that, what we offer for the software protection and the monetization. And since that is a niche market, but a market that is very interesting for all the people, for all the customers in the world who create their own software or have devices that they sell into the market that are also controlled by software, we are acting worldwide, and we have several offices all over the world. So we have one in the United States. We have one in Europe, and we have 3 in the meantime in Asia, 2 in China, and 1 in Japan. And it shows that this topic of digital rights management is a worldwide interesting topic, because you have to consider to do it on your own or to buy a professional solution for that, and that's exactly what we offer to the market. But what do we exactly offer to our customers? So this is the typical process of our business. So you have a software that you want to protect. So we deliver our customers libraries and tools to encrypt their software and to create licenses with which the customer, the end customer, is later on able to decrypt the software again according to the licenses that he has bought for the software. And the software monetization means that you as an ISV, an independent software vendor, you create the license models that you want to sell into different markets, into different regions, to access the basic software, for example, or to access several functions that you want to charge for in addition. For example, you have a feature-on-demand model. You have a subscription model where the customers has to pay periodically for the software. Or you have here pay-per-use licenses, where the end customers really pay for the usage of a complete software or a usage of a certain function or functionality. All of our ISVs and customers has to define the internal process chain, because you want to have the licensing integrated in your whole ordering system change. So an order comes in from a customer side, and you want to make sure that the customer gets the appropriate licenses at the end of the chain to use that software according to the licenses he or she has bought. And we take care that these licenses are delivered in a secure way to the end customers, so that they cannot be cheated, you cannot duplicate licenses, you cannot tamper licenses. And of course, we have all the modules for our customers to integrate our technology for distributing and managing the licenses into their existing systems, like an SAP system, like a Salesforce system. Whatever you have there, you want to integrate that to have the highest possibility for an automation process. You don't want to have any manual steps, you just want to have it as an automatic process. And if we look at this slide here, we have that slogan, integrate once and deliver many. And what does that mean? So on the one side, we have libraries and we have a tool chain that allows our customer to convert their unprotected software into a protected software using, for example, our Code Emitter Protection Suite. That means you have really an encrypted software that cannot be tampered, that cannot be used without having any licenses with the appropriate keys to open that software again in the memory of the PC. And on the other hand, we have the integration to the process that I mentioned before. You can integrate our CodeMeter License Central, which is the central software server application to create licenses, to deliver licenses, and to manage licenses on the one side into an existing ERP system or an e-commerce shop. And on the other side, to allow the end customers to achieve the licenses that they have bought in a secure way on every system they needed. And that is the integrate once, because you do both parts once in a time, and you deliver later on your software in many times with many different licenses. So the ideal process is that you have one software package that is the same for all your customers, and with these licenses, you manage which functions a certain person is allowed to use of your software. So we have differentiation between the licensing mechanism and the protection of the software. You can deliver the same software to all customers, but you can, the software does not care about the license models. And so that gives you the flexibility to change license models for different regions, for different markets, for different customers, but you do not have to change your application itself. It stays the same wherever you deliver it, but with the licensing, you are able to control which functions, which parts, which applications can be used by the customer. We offer that. We started 30 years ago with the dongle business. So we have really USB dongles and even parallel port dongles in the early times. This is still on the market because it's the best and most secure way to store the encryption keys. But in the meantime, of course, we have plain software activations that are not bound to a dongle, but to the software, to the hardware of a PC. And of course, for the future purposes, we have the cloud licenses as well. So it doesn't matter which one you want to use. It's the same for all, and you can use it for the different license models we have with different license container types. And if we go back, because I want to close that circle to the 3D part, we have the same slide like before. So we have the software protection, the software monetization. And if we have now such spare parts, we have a CAD model that has to be prepared and secured. And that means then we can take the same steps like before, but instead of protecting the software with standard algorithms, we just protected data. And this is exactly the same. If you protect software or data, it's from our perspective, it's the same. So we can use that for encrypting the content of such a file. And when we have a closer look to the license models, you see that we have the pay-per-use model, which is perfect for how many times you can print such an object. Yeah? So you need a license for preparing that the file, and you need a license to print it on the printer later on. The other process steps, the definition of the internal process chain, the secure delivery, and the integration of a license management in the existing process chain stays completely the same. There is no difference between I send out a software or I send out just data, which has to be protected. So it's the perfect way to use our already existing technology for this purpose to have digital right management in the additive manufacturing industry. So no need to change anything, just to adapt it to the needs of this industry. And that is the reason why we have that wonderful partnership with Daimler Truck and Forsoon Technologies. So the goal was to digitize the worldwide spare part business, but we are saying we are revolutionizing this instead of digitization, because we think that is the future of the spare part business, to sell spare parts now as licenses and no logistic ways, no real production necessary. You have your printer and you have it where you want it, the spare part everywhere in the world whenever you need it. And let's have a closer look to the overall process here. So we have the step to prepare that data of that object in a first step, to secure it in the way that we encrypt that file. And then we have a circle that starts with a customer buys that part in the e-commerce shop. He downloads the part information and he downloads the necessary licenses he needs to pre-press and to print the object. And we have the print process itself, where we have to control how often a customer or an end customer is allowed to print such a part. And that is done over and over and over again. So that shop brings everyone in the world who needs spare parts in the position to buy parts whenever he needs a part and the amount of parts he really needs. Not 10,000. He just, if he needs 5 pieces, he can buy 5 pieces in the shop, and then he can print it. And that is the overall process that we all have in mind if we say revolutionizing the digital spare part business, because we have here the underlying technology. And you see, we have the same things: prepare, buy, download, and print. And this is the overall view about all the systems that we have in place. So starting with the prepare part on the left side, and with the shop system where the customers of Daimler Truck can buy the spare parts, we have the download part and the print part. And let's now have a closer look to all these parts, which are, by the way, using the standard code meter technology. So you see, we have the code meter core API that is integrated in the several software packages. And we have the possibility to use dongles or software licenses. Of course, software license is the easier usage because you do not have to deliver any hardware components in addition, but it's possible even with the cloud solution as well. So we have that 3 steps, and let's have a closer look to these steps. So the first one is on the left side, the Omniplus 3D printing licensing eShop. So you see here an air distributor that is available in the shop system for download. And we have the 3 parts here. You see it in German, but I can explain it nevertheless. So this is the download button for the 3D data that you need. And in the first step, all these parts that are available in the eShop are encrypted on base of the code meter technology. So whenever you download the data, it is encrypted. You cannot use it in any way. You need, in addition, several licenses. And you can buy these licenses in the e-commerce system of Daimler Truck. And with the license central that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, of my presentation, you can deliver these licenses to the ones who need that licenses. And that is the special question: who needs that licenses? So we have 2 additional stakeholders here. There's, on the other hand, the pre-press people who needs to establish the print shop at the end. So they take all the objects they want to print, and they place it in the chamber room of such a 3D printer. Here you see just one part. This is the air distributor that I mentioned in my slide before. But of course, you put a lot of them into that chamber room because that is, you want to optimize that printing process. It takes long, and you have to spend the money to print it. And so it makes sense not only to have one part in the chamber room, you have the possibility to have a lot of them in that room. It can be the same one several times. There can be different ones. There can be protected ones and unprotected ones. We take care about all these cases. And we have the wonderful situation that Farsoon Technologies also believing in that new market opportunity. So they integrated our code meter technology in their BuildStar software, which is the preparing software for such prints. So they have to integrate our technology as well. So if you download the data of that piece, you also need the so-called prepress license to be able to use that part, the encrypted part, in that software. So that's the one license you need, the prepress license. And last but not least, also the printer control software needs the integration of CodeMeter. And here we have the same situation that Farsoon Technologies also integrated in their MakeStar software, our CodeMeter application. On the one side, to decrypt the print shop, because after prepress the print shop, it is again encrypted, and you need a license to decrypt it on the printer. And we have a counter in that license that is able to securely count how often such a piece can be printed on the 3D printer. It's a so-called certified 3D printer because it's the one who is able to handle such encrypted pieces. And that is the third part that that needs to integrate CodeMeter, starting with the producer and designer, the encrypted parts in the shop, the prepress software, where you can create a chamber room for a 3D printer, and last but not least, the print shop itself that is printed on such a printer. Let's have a look on the distribution of such licenses. We have our standard mechanism where the license central is in between. So we have the ERP system of Daimler Truck or the e-commerce system. Both are connected to the license central. And we have the user on the other side, the one who needs the prepress license to create the print shop, and the one who has the printer software on his printer to be able to print it and how often he can print it. And this process is like follows. So an order comes in from the e-commerce shop, and the license central creates a so-called ticket. And ticket means that it's an activation code that is delivered to the customer via the shop system. It's a number, digit, string, long enough to be a very good password because it's nothing else than a password. And with this password, the user, the prepress person or the printer person is able to download these licenses on the corresponding systems. And this happens just by entering the ticket, creating a fingerprint on the system together with the ticket. You get back a license file which only works on the system where this fingerprint comes from due to security reasons. And then you have the license available on the system to be able to work with it or to print it. And that is the complete process that runs behind the scenes if we have a closer look to the e-commerce system as well. And I tried to show you these the following, from step 2 to step 5. I want to show you that in real life, just as a presentation here. So I have here the 2 tickets. You see, these tickets are randomly generated numbers, and we have that activation portal that the customer uses to activate the licenses on the system. So I got, for example, this prepress license here. And this allows me to activate on my local system here a prepress license to be able to work with such a 3D object in the BuildStar software, for example, of Farsoon. So I enter that ticket, I go to the next step, and you see I'm allowed to activate such a prepress license on my system. I push the activate license button, and I can now activate that license on my local system here. And then the process starts that is mentioned on the right side of my presentation. The ticket and the fingerprint of the system is sent to the license central. The license central sends back an update file. The update file is integrated here in my system. And finally, I get a receipt that the license is successfully activated on my system. So the server system in the background knows now that I have a prepress license here on my local system. There is no need for an additional connection to the License Central anymore. So I have really an on-premise license on my system. And let's have a look here. This is my license container. Then I can have a look in that license container, what's inside that container. And you see, I have here my pre-press license available. And the BuildStar software now checks, is such a license available for a certain 3D object? Yes or no? If yes, you can work with it. If no, the work is denied. You cannot open that file. And so you need such a pre-press license for each object that is protected with the CodeMirror technology in the eShop of Daimler-Benz. The other thing is that I have also a print license available. And let's do the same process again, just starting here again. So let's assume we are now on the printer side. I have a ticket that allows me to buy print license, or to get print licenses on my system. It's the same procedure that I have shown before. I take the same license container in my demo here. Typically, you have two different PCs for that, one for the pre-press software, one for the control of the printer, but it's the same story. And if we now check the license container again, then you will see that I have an additional license now in that container. So not only the pre-press license, now I have a print license that allows me to count 3 times, or that I'm allowed to print that object 3 times on such a Fasun printer. And that's the way how the handling of the protection of the files is done with the CodeMirror technology on base what we typically do for plain software. We can also do here for data as well. There is no difference between that. We can use all the process steps that we already have in place since decades. And that shows how the full functionality of that shop can work in reality. And that's exactly what I want to show you here as well, so that you get an impression what that means. So I just show a small video, a prepared video that we have of the whole process chain. So let's start that. Here it is. So again, thanks to all the participants that we have in the boat to bring that project to life, and especially to the company Seifert Logistic Group that created that video that shows the complete process from the start here in the Omnibus shop. You see here the different parts that you can choose for the 3D printing, and our famous air distributor is also on that page. And if they download the pre-press license, that is the button here that I have shown as well. This is the license that allows you to work with the BuildStar software from Fasun to place and create the chamber room for that. And on the other side, they want to buy the print license for just one single piece. It costs 14.99 euros. They put it in the Warenkorb. And if they bought it, paid it, then they get a ticket to download the print license on the device. And that's exactly what I have shown before, just with the real licenses here. And in the next step, you see how they work in the software of Fasun. They open the protected part, and they are able to use it because the license is on their system. They have located everything in the chamber room, and push the button that finally comes to deliver that to the printer. And that is also done in a secure way. And now we see the print job itself, just to have a little bit connection to the real life. So you see the part is now printed in such a certified printer of Farsoon. And after a while, you have the nearly ready to go 3D part. You see you have to get rid of the powder that is created during the print process. But you see here is the air distributor. And in a very final step, the powder is completely cleaned. So there's a new device for that. And with that final step, it's now cleaned up. You have the 3D part in your hands. Just ordering from the OmniPlus e-commerce system from Daimler Truck. You have the part in your hands wherever you are in the world, whenever you need it in the world. Just by clicking some buttons, and of course has a Farsoon printer in your own company, or your service provider is having such the printer in his portfolio. So that is what I want to show you about the real life. And I want to finish my presentation now with some challenges we face. So, of course, we have in any case to involve different stakeholders, as I mentioned before. So I have the part vendor, we have Daimler Truck, which needs to integrate that in their system, in their e-commerce system, and the preparation, meaning the encrypting of the part, has to be done by the part vendor. We have the pre-press software vendor in place, because he has to integrate the code meter technology to make sure to be able to use that encrypted part in the pre-press software. And finally, we have the 3D printer vendor that integrates the technology in the printer controlling software, so that on the one hand, the encrypted print job can be decrypted, and on the other hand, to count how often such a part can be printed, because that is the point that is clear before you print it, not after you printed it. So all of them have to integrate the code meter technology to ensure the security chain from the job to the printer. Then we face the challenge, when is the 3D part completely printed? Is it printed by 100% ready? Is it printed by 95% ready? Because you can stop, of course, such a printing procedure. And sometimes it could work that you have a 95% printed piece and you can use it, yeah, without any limitation. So we have that challenge to say, okay, do we have, on the one hand, if we do it very strict, that we have a lot of service calls where service providers call in and say, hey, the printer job was canceled by an error, by mistake. Can we get another license? And on the other hand, we have that problem that maybe you are cheated as a vendor of that parts, because it is just done by 95%, and then they stopped the controlling mechanism, and we decrease the counter in the moment when we have a certain percentage printed of such a part. So that is the thing we will see in the market later on, if we make it strict or loose. So it's more or less a parameter that you set. But the most challenging thing was that we are going as evangelists through the market. So we need the face of the change in the global AM market in the market, because today all these things are ruled either by free objects or a contract-based control. You do not have a technical control available in former times, and now you have one. So it's of course a hard change for some of the users in that market, but it's the only way really to make sure that you can monetize your 3D objects in a way that you have the control and nobody can cheat you. So just a small summary, we think that the 3D spare part printing will be a fundamental way to get original spare parts in the expected quality wherever and whenever the parts are needed in the world. And this is indeed a revolution to that market, because it's not really brand new, but now we showed that it is really technically possible to do that. And the market of 3D printing service providers is expected to grow, because not every company will have a 3D printer available, but you will have a lot of 3D printing service providers all over the world that offers this service to print such objects wherever you are in the world. And you have to make sure that the intellectual property rights of the owners are still in place, not only just by a contract, but also with a technical control. The great thing is that the existing and market-proven code mirror technology can be used on that, because, as I said before, it's the same story with data as with the software protection that we are doing since decades with a lot of large customers in the world, showing that this technology works based on standard encryption and decryption mechanisms, but with the additional benefits that we offer together with the toolchain to encrypt and decrypt, and with the monetization possibility based on our flexible license models. And so we think it's a very good and perfect technology for the additive manufacturing industry when we have the view on the 3D printing parts and the protection of the intellectual property. If you have the intention to visit the Formnext in Frankfurt, one of the leading fairs in the world for 3D printing companies, please feel free to visit us in Hall 11.1 at our booth at the VDMA Collective exhibit. I would be happy to tell you much more details and show you many things beside that what we have produced, Mr. Schmid and me, today. So that's my part. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm just checking about questions in the chat. So one question that comes up, and this is one for you, Mr. Schmid, is how many parts are already available in the online shop of OmniPlus?
Mm-hmm. Maybe we have to make a difference between which parts are technically suitable for 3D printing and which are the parts that we have already in the shop. In the shop, we have about 200 parts right now, and technically suitable are about 50% of our complete assortment. So we are talking about 40,000 parts, which we optimize day by day for putting them into our shop and make them available for all our customers.
Okay, are there any limitations about quality or size or something like that? Or are all of these parts more or less ready to be printed in that case?
Yes, we have some limitations by size and materials, but these limits are changing nearly daily. Nowadays, parts are printable that 2 years ago you would have never thought about to print them. For example, we printed a whole cockpit for our double-decker buses.
Okay.
Right now it is possible. 2 years ago it wasn't. And from the material side, we are focusing on plastics, but we also have metal parts that are printable, but plastics are the majority at the moment.
Okay, so we can wait for the metal. That is a great news.
Yes, we're working on it, but there we have some issues on the materials side, because we have only high-end materials in the market. So, but we're optimistic that there will be an automotive material available soon.
Okay, now I have also some questions for me. First of all, is that technology, the CodeMeter technology, also available for different operating systems? Yes, that's where we come from. So we have started with Windows, Linux, and Macintosh, and more than 10 years before, we also extended our portfolio to embedded systems, and that is an important thing when we come to printer control software. Of course, we have software that is on a high-level operating system, but there are also printing control devices that uses embedded operating systems. And this is our great USP, that we can say, okay, even for such systems, we can deliver such a protection and monetization platform, because it's the same one that we have for the high-end operating systems. And there's one question about the standardization of equipment, state and performance. So the performance is not influenced by the digital rights management. That's only a very small thing in that game. Standardization, yes, there are some things going on about standardization, but they are not ready yet. And it makes, of course, sense that we have an standardization, because we need more software vendors and printer vendors in that game, so that it makes sense for the service providers to have all these security and monetization things in a way level. We started that initiatives based on our CodeMeter technology, which is based on standard cryptographic algorithms. So we are not doing anything special here. But on the other hand, the protection of the 3D parts and of the parameters of that is done now in an individual way, but based on standard cryptographic algorithms. I'm pretty sure that we are open for that. So our technology can be integrated in existing standards. That is not a problem. But I don't see in the moment a standardization available in the next year. So I hope for that. We are open for it. But we have done it with the CodeMeter technology that can be integrated in existing standards as soon as we have one which is supported by a lot of different vendors and printer vendors. And I think that was the question that I see. All other questions we will answer after our webinar. So thank you very much, Mr. Schmid, for your presentation. Thank you, everybody outside there. And if you have any questions, visit the Fortnext or come to us. And I hope you will visit our next webinar again. Thank you very much for that. And I say goodbye to all of you.
Thank you also. Bye-bye.